12:30 kickoffs are back, and obviously Klopp's gone, but Liverpool are still featuring in the 12:30, and I'm not happy about it. Why do we keep getting 12:30s? And this one's a tricky one. Ipswich away from home, back in the Prem after so many years. We spoke about this last week and said they're going to be up for this. It might be the Luton sort of feeling, loads of balls getting chucked into the box, and if they start well, Ed Sheeran in the crowd is definitely going to sing before the game gets going. The pressure's going to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for Liverpool, it's probably not the fixture that you want against a newly promoted side. 12:30. It's about 1,000 miles away from Liverpool, so it couldn't be any further, really. Yeah. Complete opposite ends of the country. And of course, without Zubimendi, you were twerking for him for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but I will walk out.
Doesn't look like he's going to be near a red shirt anytime soon. But look, I mean, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with Arne Slot. Obviously not quite getting the signings that he wants or making big signings, which I can understand is making a few Liverpool fans nervous, but still inheriting an incredible side. Still got Mo Salah, still got probably the best defender in the league in Virgil van Dijk, still got Trent Alexander-Arnold. And a style of football which those players probably won't be used to, but I think will be able to adapt to very, very quickly because they're top elite players that Liverpool have got. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with Arne Slot and Liverpool.
What I found interesting is obviously Liverpool now will play a sort of slower style. So obviously under Klopp, the theory is that Klopp always played high octane football. But actually I'm of the opinion that the years Liverpool were really successful, in particular the year they won the league, the year they won the Champions League, and also the last couple of years, it wasn't high octane. It was controlled football, not very possession based like maybe Guardiola, but Arne Slot plays possession based football, and I do think Trent will benefit from that. Salah, a few players will really benefit from that sort of style.
Yeah, I definitely think the high octane rock and roll football is a misnomer. I think the 18-19 season where you pushed City close, but then you won the Champions League, that was very much rock and roll football and it suited Champions League football. But in the final, it wasn't that necessarily. But in the 19-20 season where you were one of the most dominant teams the Premier League has ever seen, Liverpool weren't playing that rock and roll football. It was controlled. You had effective attackers. You had defenders who could get the ball up quickly, and you had the fullbacks who were amazing. This Liverpool team intrigues me though, and I'm not too high on them, or I'm not as high on them as other people, because I feel like when you come into a club, as Arne Slot has as a manager, I feel like you always want to make your imprint, and the big way you make your imprint is by bringing in signings. Liverpool are the only club in the Premier League not to have made a signing as of yet. And I think that can affect not necessarily morale, because this is a squad that know each other very, very well, but can affect Arne Slot in terms of if things don't go well or don't go right initially, and then you start to question yourself, you start to question, is it the fact that I haven't got the players that I need to implement my style of football? And Kim mentioned Zubimendi, that was a player that Liverpool had their eye on and they were very, very keen on, and you're very keen on as well. Couldn't get that deal over the line.
Catching straight non-stop.
Couldn't get a deal over the line. You're not the director of football. It's not you catching straight.
Thanks, Quick. I needed that.
But this is a Liverpool side that haven't improved from last season, and there's a Liverpool side that go into this new season with a lot of question marks because their key players in Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk, and Mo Salah last year their contracts. And so with that looming, and with the fact they've got a new manager and a slightly different style of football, I think this is a Liverpool side they're going to take a little while to find their feet, but I expect them to find their feet eventually towards the back end of the season.
I think you can kind of look at that from two ways, though, in terms of he's just come into the football club. He probably doesn't want to rock the boat too much, which often happens. A manager will come in, they'll make big signings, key players will lose their positions, and it just affects the overall atmosphere. So he might be thinking that he doesn't want to do that. He might also think, I have full confidence in this squad to be able to implement my style of play without needing anyone else. And you can understand why he thinks that. I mean, Liverpool have still got an electric front three with Diaz, Jota, Mo Salah. They bought two midfielders last year despite missing out on the two main targets, and they've kind of reinforced that position, and they've got an incredible defence. There's probably the sort of second centre-back position which you might question, and I personally would wonder why they haven't tried to reinforce that with a really, really top centre-back. But from goalkeeper to attack, they've got a fantastic team, and I don't think they necessarily needed signings. I think it's more going to be, can Arne Slot embed his style of football very, very quickly, which is what he's going to need to do, because if he waits a month or two, they're probably going to be too far behind Arsenal or City to challenge again.
I do wonder what the target is realistically, because I don't think the target is winning the league. It's going to be, can I instill my identity? So by January time, he'll probably go, okay, now I know what I want. Because like you both said there and made great points, that if you get to this point in the summer where he's barely had any time in the team and he goes, right, you know what, I'm going to change the left back and I might change the midfielder and I might get a striker because that's typically what managers do.
Yeah.
And then you bring in all these guys and go, well, they're my players, so they have to play. And then you've got Jota upset or Salah upset or Diaz upset. These guys have been the fabric of this club for most of them 5 or 6 years at least and have been really successful. I think he probably comes into this and says, you were more successful without me. I'm now here to give my input, my ideas, and at some point down the line, I'll bring in the guys that implement mine more effectively.
Passive managers never win in the Premier League. And if that is his mindset, and I don't want to come and rock the boat, you're not going to be successful in the league in terms of taking Liverpool to the heights that Jurgen Klopp took them to. Because ultimately, that's what the job is. Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, and now City, when it comes to managers who come in and do the job, the question is, will this manager lead us to league title success or European success eventually down the line? And if you can't see that within the first season because the manager's passive, I don't think...
Yeah, but Klopp was passive as well. And even to the last day, Klopp was passive. Because Liverpool are in this situation where they still need another centre-back. Liverpool have been chasing a sixth for, I think, 3 years.
Yeah.
And Jurgen Klopp has a hand in that because he was passive.
100%. But it's by committee when it comes to Liverpool transfers, right? Michael Edwards has a huge part to play in terms of recruitment at that football club. For the longest time, you mentioned it already, Liverpool wanted the 6. You had £111 million ready to go for Caicedo last summer. You haven't had a huge outlay since then. So where is that money to go and aggressively attack that number 6? Zubimendi is not an aggressive attack. Zubimendi is a player that is a great, not great, but is a decent deep line playmaker, is a bit technical, more of a Thiago replacement. But where is that anchor in the midfield that's really going to bring the best out of McAllister or Szoboszlai, who are players that you invested in last summer? I think that Liverpool have missed a trick by not going early and bringing them, because how long do people know that Arne Slot is going to be the next Liverpool manager? For a long, long time. So to have not made a signing between then and now, it baffles me.
The thing is that there's two possibilities. One, which you're not going to like, which is what we've seen with Caicedo, Lavio, and now Zubimendi, which is that potentially Liverpool don't have the pull that their directors or managers or fans think that they do.
They're going to hate you in the comments.
Or this
Get in the comments. Don't have that pull.
No. I mean, you've lost out 3 number 6s. 1 to Real Sociedad. 2 to
Apparently,
Chelsea.
according to you, San Sebastian is one of the nicest
It's
places
a
on
lovely
earth to be
place.
in.
The guy just wants to eat a bit of tapas. I mean, leave him be. But the second possibility is that this is a plan. This is his plan. His plan was to come into the football club, see what he has. He probably has no expectation of winning the league this year. Yeah. Probably wants to finish top 4 and probably isn't that pressed if he doesn't, I think. It's probably just see who we have. Possibly Salah's going to leave next year. Possibly Van Dijk is going to leave. He needs to lay a strong foundation this season. And he's probably thought to himself, including a load of high-profile, big-money signings is not the way that I'm going to be able to do it. I think it's quite strategic. Whether it works or not, we don't know.
Let's talk about Ipswich, because there is 2 teams in this game, would you believe? This is an amazing stat, so shout out the stats, man. Ipswich squad only has 116 Premier League appearances between them. The next lowest in the league is Southampton with 1,251. I know it's like that old cliche, like you need experience to be in the Premier League. You need experience to hang about. I think it's actually potentially legitimately true, because if you look at that starting 11, there's not many names there that we will know, like, or that are household names.
And then that's why when you look at Ipswich signings this summer, it's kind of troubling to you, because Omari Hutchinson, great, amazing for them in the Championship last season on loan, made that permanent, kind of a coup for a club like Ipswich. Jacob Greaves from Hull, Liam Delap from City. Then you're looking at Ben Johnson. He's probably got the most Premier League experience out of all their new signings this summer. You need experience in the Premier League, because it's an old cliche, but there's a reason why all the 3 promoted teams last season went down. Like, they lacked that know-how, that nous, especially when you look at a Luton who really had that goodwill factor that I think Ipswich can harness this year. They just lack that Premier League quality. And their best player last season, who was it? Ross Barkley, a player that had Premier League quality, a player that's played at level before. I think that's where Ipswich, if they do fall short and do go straight back down, that's where the issue is going to be, because that's an incredible stat in terms of the lack of Premier League experience there. That's going to happen though. Back-to-back promotions means that there's some players in the squad that are playing in League One. And it's a great story, and Kieran McKenna's a great progressive manager, and he himself knows the Premier League, would work at Manchester United, and maybe can lean on those relationships in terms of getting some United players on loan. We know United have to shift players, But in terms of this Ipswich squad, I don't think they're ready for the Premier League, and I think they might falter this season.
I think the thing when a team comes up, especially a relatively unknown team, which Ipswich are more than any who have come up in the last 5-6 years because they've basically come from League One in 2 years, we don't really know that much about them. And I think when you come up into the Premier League, I think the most important thing is that you buy a number 9 who has played in the Premier League before and can score goals. They don't have that. And Luton didn't have that, but was still had the players to kind of almost stay in the Premier League. Ipswich don't have that, and they bought Liam Delap, who didn't pull up any trees at Stoke, didn't pull up any trees at Hull, and now they're kind of relying on him to be their main striker through the season.
Like
it doesn't.
Classic, like he used to play for City. Like,
it does,
bring him in.
They've kind of bought him on his name and from the team that he comes from, rather than what they need. I'm really surprised that they haven't gone out for that. I think when you come up from the Premier League, your attack, and namely a number 9, because that's probably how they're going to play, and your back 4 have to be tip-top players, and they have to have experience. I was quite surprised with the Ben Johnson signing. I think that's quite a good signing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't play more for West Ham. I thought he's quite a good player. Looking at the rest of the back 4, it doesn't inspire me hugely, I have to be honest.
And if you look at the players they're linked with in the summer transfer window, I really like Sammy Smodic. I think he done a great job in the Championship last season. He scored a lot of goals for Blackburn. He's a top scorer in the division. And that's their main transfer target right now. It's the deal they've been trying to get over the line for the last couple of weeks. But I don't know if that's the solution if you're Ipswich. You need proven quality, and we've linked Eddie Nketiah to every team under the sun. But he's a man that could come and do the job at Ipswich as well. This is a team that needs a solid defence, like you guys have pointed out, and needs a goal scorer, because goals keep you in the division. And all the teams that went down last season struggled with that, and I think that this might be Ipswich problem this year.
I think to give them their dues, though, they've got a fantastic manager who a lot of other teams wanted. We know that Chelsea were in talks. We know that Brighton were in talks with him. The fact that he's stayed shows a loyalty to the club, and it shows that the players and him are probably on side. And it's also a football club who hasn't been in the Premier League for a long time. Portman Road develops an incredible atmosphere, and that kind of thing, the intangibles can keep you in the Premier League. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
We said Luton nearly did it last season.
Very nearly.
So I do feel they'll have something, especially in the early part of the season. If you start okay, I think you can go well. Let's get on to predictions. I'll give mine first. I've got a feeling it'll be much tighter than maybe what most people think. I think it'll be 2-1 Liverpool, but I think it's going to be one of those awful, horrible games, and Ipswich will make it really difficult.
Yeah, I don't actually disagree with that. I think it's a game that Ipswich might take the lead in, but I think Liverpool just have a bit too much for them. I'm going for a 3-1 Liverpool win, but like you said, it won't be as comfortable as everybody expects.
I think I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think just the Portman Road factor, the 12:30 factor, the fact that Liverpool have to travel across the country, and it's Ipswich's first game in the Premier League for over a decade. I just fancy them, the fans behind their backs. I just fancy them to take something from this.